Very warm welcome students to today's session on functions. Functions forms the base of your entire mathematics, physics and also chemistry. How? See your physics, whatever equations you write displacement as a function of time, function of velocity, function of acceleration, velocity as a function of displacement and acceleration, same thing in electrostatics, same thing in every chapter. Similarly in your chemistry, physical chemistry as well. Of course, in mathematics, almost every chapter has a role of function. So, we are going to revise functions. I am not going to do in-depth numericals, which are required for the level of advanced. In mains, basic numericals are asked from this chapter. Very easy numericals are asked from this chapter. So, I will restrict my difficulty level to smaller level of questions. But yes, language is something which is most essential in differential calculus. What do we mean by if? What do we mean by if and only if? If A implies B, is the contrapositive of it is also true, or what are the things which can assume, what are the things we cannot assume? What do we mean by unique? What do we mean by only one? What do we mean by one? All these things will become very important in terms of answering your questions. So the language is something which we need to focus on while learning functions, so that entire differential integral calculus in all chapters of mathematics become very easy to you. So straight away, let us start with the definition of functions. You have something called relations and something called functions. So you all know what relations are. If there are two sets x and y, any mapping from elements of set x to elements of set y, we call it a relation. Okay, so there are a lot many relations are possible, and in relations we don't have any conditions. Not many conditions. Every element in x, not every element. It could be some elements, some may be involved, some may not be involved. They can be mapped to as many elements as you want in set y. So in relations there will be absolutely no conditions, whereas not all relations are functions. Functions obey certain conditions. What is the condition? Let x and y be two non-empty sets. Let x and y be two non-empty sets. A function f from x to y is a rule. There is a rule here. There is something which a relation has to obey. And what is that rule? That assigns to each and every element of x. Each and every element of x should be assigned to one and only one element of set y. Each and every element of set x should be assigned to one and only one element of set y. Okay, so mathematically, how do we write a function? F maps x to y. X is called your domain set, y is called your codomain set, and it may be given by a definition y is equal to f of x. This is how we denote mathematically a function f maps x to y by given by a definition y is equal to f of x. And when will a relation become a function? When each and every element of x is assigned to one and only one element of set y. Let us look further in detail and understand how relations are different from functions. Each element in set x, just now we discussed, has its image in y. Has its image, it should have an image in y. And how many images are possible? There should be only one element. Every element in x. So that is the reason each and every element in x should have one and only one image in y. One and only one image in y. So this is the condition which makes it a function. So functions can't be multivariable, multi-valued. Functions can't be multi-valued. What does that mean? One value of x will give you only one value of y. They cannot be plus or minus 2. There are two values for this number. So output cannot be, whenever you give some input, output cannot be multifold. There should be only single element output. For example, x square plus y square is equal to 1. If I put x is equal to 0, then what do we get? 1 y as? 1 is also possible, minus 1 is also possible. So this relation is not a function. This relation is not a function. Every function will be a relation, but converse need not be true. So not every relation is a function, whereas every function is a relation. So set of functions which can be drawn from x to y will be a subset of all relations. A function is said to be a relation drawn to x end such that each and every element of A is related to exactly one element of B. That is our definition in simple terms. So let us see whether this is a function or not. A is mapped to 2, B is mapped to 4, C is mapped to 1. So each and every element is mapped to each and every element. There is no element left in set A which is unmapped. So each and every element is mapped, and every element is mapped to only one element in set B. So this is of course a function. This is a function. Let us look at another example. Here A is mapped to 2 and A is also mapped to 3, B is mapped to 4, C is mapped to 1. Each and every element is mapped, first condition is true, but A is mapped to 2 elements, whereas every element should be mapped to only one element of set B. So A, because it is mapped to 2 elements, this is no longer a function. This is not a function. This is not a function because A is mapped to 2 elements. Let us look at another example. Here this is a function because every element is mapped and every element is mapped to only one element. Here it is a function because it is not a function because though every element is mapped, A is mapped to 2 elements. Now, is this a function? A is mapped to 2, only one element. B is mapped to 3, only element. D is also mapped to 1, which is again only one element. So elements of A are mapped to only one element in set B, but it is still not a function because C is not mapped to any of the elements. C is not mapped to any of the elements. Each and every element in A has to be mapped with exactly one element in set B. So this is again not a function because C is unmapped. So this is how we understand functions. Graphically, if you look at the graph of y is equal to x square, there is something called a vertical line test. There is something called a vertical line test. If you are drawing a line vertical, that means parallel to y-axis, and each and every line is cutting only once. Each and every line parallel to a y-axis cuts the graph not more than once, then such a graph is a graph of a function. Such a graph is a graph of a function. So here, how many ever lines you draw, wherever line you see, it is cutting at most once. No line is cutting more than once. So this is happily a function. This is a function. Look at the graph of x square plus y square is equal to 9. This is a circle. We know this is a circle. Now, if you draw a line parallel to y-axis, each and every line, is it cutting only once? No, there are also some lines which are cutting it twice. There are lines which are not cutting it, absolutely not a problem. There are lines which are touching it at only one point, that is also not a problem. But there are also lines which are cutting the graph at 2 points. So this cannot be a function. This cannot be graph of a function. So first one is a graph of a function. Second one is not graph of a function. This test is called vertical line test. Now let us look at the another graph. Y square is equal to x. Y square is equal to x. Y square is equal to x. Is it graph of a function? How is this? This is your parabola. It is in the form y square is equal to 4ax. Okay, this is your standard parabola. Now, if you draw a line parallel to x-axis, some lines are not cutting it, some lines are touching it, some lines are cutting it at 2 points. So, it is not allowed to cut it 2 points. This is again not a function. This is not a function. Let us look at another graph. Y is equal to x cube. Y is equal to x cube. How much will it be? At x equal to 0, it will be 0. If you keep on increasing the values of x, it will increase. For negative, it is an odd function. So, this is how the graph will be. There will be a beautiful odd symmetry about origin. This is the graph of y is equal to x cube. Now, draw whatever lines are possible, draw them in your mind and see if any graph is cutting it more than once. None of them, right? None of them are cutting more than once. Whatever line you draw, it is cutting only once. So, this is graph of a function. Y is equal to x cube is a function. Y square x equal to x is not a function. So, this is how, given the graph, you can identify whether a graph is of a function or not. And as we said, if function, it is usually denoted by f maps x to y or f maps a to b and given by some definition y is equal to f of x. The set A is called domain of the function. Set A is called domain of the function. So, let's say f is mapping from x to y. Let's say f is mapping from x to y. Let this be a function. Set x, it is called domain of the function. Domain of the function, it is this first set. And it is denoted by d subscript f, or simply written in English as domain of f. And set y, it is called codomain of the function. Set y, it is called codomain of the function. Now, sometimes there will be only functional relation given. This f maps x to y will not be given. In that case, what will you take domain of a function as? Let's say simply I write a function y is equal to 1 by x, or I write a function g of x is equal to root over x minus 1. I am not giving from f maps from where to where. In such cases where f maps x to y is not given, then if y is equal to f of x, that means only definition is given, and in our syllabus we have only real valued and real variable functions. So, in such cases, what we take domain as is the set of all possible values of x, set of all possible values of x, and only those values of x, language pe focus karo. It is set of, what is domain? It is set of all possible values of x and only those possible values of x for which f of x is real. So, what is domain of a function? When simply definition is given, you have to take domain of a function as set of all possible values of x and only those possible values of x for which f of x is real. For example, here if I say 2 to infinity is domain of this function, am I right or wrong? If I put 2, I get 1 here, I am getting a real number. Any number greater than 2, if I put, I am getting this to be a positive number. It is real, but this is not domain of the function, because if I substitute 3 by 2, here 1.5, still I am getting a real value. So, this is set of possible values of x for which it is real, but it is not all possible values. There are elements missing. So, what is the actual domain of this function? 1 to infinity. This will give you real values when the quantity under the root is greater than or equal to 0. And when is x minus 1 greater than or equal to 0? When x is greater than or equal to 1. So, domain of the function is 1 to infinity. Okay. Let's say I say R is domain of this function. Am I right? No. Why not? Because when I put 0, it is giving me a meaningless expression. It is not giving me any real value when I put 0 here. So, what is domain of this function? It is R minus single element set 0. So, you have to take care of all possible values. Even in place of closed interval, if you put open interval, you will be wrong. Okay, so you have to be very careful about this word all. You cannot miss out even a single element in the domain set. And second, only those values. Even if you are forgetting some minor problem and including even one number additionally, if you are including even one number additionally, then again you will go wrong. So you have to put all the values and not a single number extra. So domain of a function is set of all possible values and only those possible values of x for which f of x is real or meaningful. That is the domain of the function. So I'll give you certain functions, which one of which is already discussed. When will this be real? This will be real when it is not meaningless. When is it meaningless? When denominator is 0, it is meaningless, otherwise it is meaningful. So what will be domain of your first function? Except for 0, all other numbers are meaningful. So domain here is r minus 0. Second function, when is it meaningless? When denominator is 0, it will be meaningless. Denominator is 0, it will be meaningless. Denominator, when will it be 0? When x is equal to 1. So for all other numbers other than 1, this will be meaningful. So domain will be r minus 1. You can write it as minus infinity to open 1 union 1 to infinity. 1 by sin x. Tell me, what is the domain of this function 1 by sin x? It is set of all those values of x, domain for which function is meaningful or real. So if you remove all those values for which this is meaningless, rest of the values it will be meaningful. So r minus, I have to remove all the values of x for which this is meaningless. When will this be meaningless? When sin x is equal to 0. When will sin x be 0? Sin x will be 0 for all multiples of pi. So actually I have to write it in proper set builder form, but just for understanding sake I am writing it. R minus n pi. When is sin x 0? For all multiples of pi, sin x is 0. For all multiples of pi, sin x is 0. So r minus, you have to remove all the multiples of pi. That will be domain of the function. Now when will this be meaningless? 1 by e power x minus 1. E power x minus 1, if it is 0, it will be meaningless. So I have, from r I have to remove those values of x for which e power x is 1. Now when will e power x be 1? E power x will be 1 only for one value of x, that is 0. E power 0 is 1. E power 0 is 1. So what will be your answer? R minus 0. So these are the domains of these four functions. I am giving you another three functions. We have to find domain of these functions. Keep on finding them. When will first quantity be meaningful? When the quantity under the root, whenever you have a root, quantity under the root should be greater than or equal to 0. Quantity under the root should be non-negative. There is difference between saying positive and there is difference between saying non-negative. So quantity under the root should be non-negative for it to be meaningful. So x should be greater than or equal to 0. So what is domain of this function? X should be greater than or equal to 0. Quantity under the root should be greater than or equal to 0. So we write domain as closed 0 to infinity. Even if you write it as open 0 to infinity, gone. Okay, so it is closed 0 to infinity. Next question. Quantity under the root should again be greater than or equal to 0. X minus 1 to x minus 3 should be greater than or equal to 0. This is your wavy curve method, or you can use your quadratic inequality. X minus a into x minus b will be greater than or equal to 0 if x is less than or equal to a or greater than or equal to b. Or plot it on the number line 1, 3, positive, negative, positive. So when will this be greater than or equal to 0? Domain of the function will be minus infinity to 1. Here it is positive, closed, union. Can this be 0? Yes, it is. 0 is 0, properly meaningful. Closed 3 to infinity. That will be domain of the function. Okay. I'm simply solving a quadratic inequality. Between 1 and 3 it will be negative, minus infinity to 1 it is positive, 3 to infinity again it is positive. Next, f of x is equal to 1 by root over x minus 3 into x minus 4. 1 by root over x minus 3 into x minus 4. When will this be greater than or equal, meaningful? Only when quantity under the root is greater than or equal to 0. Yes or no? But here that root is in the denominator. Root is in the denominator. So if it is equal to 0, 1 by 0 is meaningless. So this quantity should be greater than 0, strictly greater than 0. Okay, this quantity should be strictly greater than 0 because root over x minus 3 into x minus 4 is in the denominator. It cannot be 0. So when will this be strictly greater than 0? 3, 4, positive, negative, positive. We want it to be positive, so it is minus infinity to 3. 3 is open interval, union 4 to infinity. That will be domain of the function. Okay, here it was closed interval because it is in the numerator, and because it is in the denominator here, it has to be open interval in the second case. So you have to be very particular about open interval or closed interval. Is that clear? Now I'll give you a bunch of functions. Let's say f of x is there whose domain is d of f. Let's say f of x is a function whose domain is d of f. Okay, then what would be the domain of 1 by f of x? First point, what is it? What is the domain of 1 by f of x? Now, when will 1 by f of x be meaningful? 1, x should be in the domain of the function, and second, f of x cannot be 0. So from domain of the function, you have to remove all those values of x for which f of x is 0. Okay, what will be domain of 1 by f of x? First of all, for f of x to be meaningful, x should be in the domain of the function d of f, and f of x should not be 0 because f of x is in the denominator. F of x should not be 0 because f of x is in the denominator. So we have to remove all those values of x for which f of x is equal to 0. डोमेन ऑफ द फंक्शन में से वो सारे वैल्यूज निकालना है जिसके लिए डिनोमिनेटर 0 हो रहा हो. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट, f of x domain is d of f. Let's say there is another function g of x whose domain is dg. Okay, now I don't want the domain of f of x. It could be plus sign or minus sign, hardly matters. f of x plus g of x का domain चाहिए. Now when will this expression be meaningful? Only when both f of x and g of x are meaningful, this whole thing will be meaningful. इसको meaningful होने के लिए दोनों भी f of x और g of x meaningful होना पड़ेगा. इसमें से एक भी अगर meaningless है तो पूरा ही expression meaningless हो जाएगा. So f of x कब meaningful होगा? df. g of x कब meaningful होगा? dg. And in mathematics means intersection. If you want f of x and g of x both to be meaningful, then your values of x are df intersection dg. Both df as well as dg should be, x should belong to both df as well as dg. So whatever are the common elements of domain of f and domain of g, that will be your answer. Is that clear? So domain of f of x plus g of x will be domain of f intersection domain of g. Similarly, if you have minus sign also, same thing. Both f of x should be meaningful and g of x should be meaningful. Even then it is d of f intersection d of g. अगर f of x into g of x हो, तब भी whenever this product, if you want it to be meaningful, both f of x should be meaningful and g of x should be meaningful. So and means intersection. What will be the combined domain? df intersection dg. You have to be little careful with the last one. F of x by g of x, if you want it to be meaningful, f of x by g of x, if you want it to be meaningful, this will be meaningful If f is meaningful, that means x should belong to domain of f, and means intersection. G of x should also be meaningful, that means x should belong to domain of G. So x should belong to x is set of all the common elements in domain of f and domain of G, and also denominator cannot be 0, and also denominator cannot be 0. So you have to remove all x such that g of x is equal to 0. ठीक है, सिर्फ f और g मीनिंगफुल होने से काफी नहीं होगा, डिनोमिनेटर 0 नहीं हो, and so you have to remove all those elements of x for which, so d of f intersection d of g, and also you have to include all those elements of d of g for which g of x not equal to 0. ये सब लिखने से सिंपल सा ये लिख सकते हो कि माइनस सेट ऑफ ऑल वैल्यूज ऑफ x फॉर विच g of x इज इक्वल टू 0. दोनों का मीनिंग एक ही. ओके, तो दिस इज हाउ यू कैन फाइंड. जैसे ऑलरेडी किए थे हम 1 by sin x. 1 by sin x domain was R. Sin x is meaningful for all real values. So R में से कौन सा चीजें रिमूव किए थे? 1 by sin x, we removed all that n pi, that is those values of x for which sin x is 0. Similarly, if domain of f and domain of G are R, domain of f and domain of G are R, what will be domain of root over f of x? So for the quantity under the root to be meaningful, quantity under the root should be greater than or equal to 0. So our domain will be set of all values of x such that f of x is greater than or equal to 0. So we observed few questions. Root over x minus 1 into x minus 2. So what was the domain? X minus 1 into x minus 2 should be greater than or equal to 0. 1 by root of f of x होगा तो equal to 0 नहीं होगा. जैसे we looked at an example, 1 by root over x minus 3 into x minus 4. So there cannot be equality here. Root over mod f of x. mod तो हमेशा नॉन नेगेटिव ही होगा, पॉजिटिव नहीं, नॉन नेगेटिव होगा. तो x वैल्यू कुछ भी हो in the domain of f is R. So whatever you put as x value, it will be happily meaningful. Okay. 1 by root over f of mod f of x. mod non-negative होगा, लेकिन denominator में 0 नहीं हो सकता. So you have to remove all those values of R for which f of mod x is 0. From R, you have to remove all those values of x for which mod f of x is 0. That is how you find domains of the function. ठीक है. Likewise, I will tell you few more things. अगर log of f of x base g of x है, when will this be meaningful? First of all, quantity inside logarithm should be greater than 0. f of x should be greater than 0. Base of the logarithm should also be greater than 0. And base of the logarithm cannot be 1. So you have to find those values of x for which f of x is greater than 0, f of x is greater than 0, and g of x is greater than 0, and g of x is not equal to 1. g of x is not equal to 1. अगर इसी में if I have log mod f of x, mod g of x, तब क्या करना होगा? Quantity under the log should be greater than 0. mod है तो ये greater than or equal to 0 होगा. So you have to remove all the cases for which f of x is equal to 0. Or g of x equal to 0. Or means union. G of x is equal to, or g of x is equal to plus or minus 1. ये वाला केसेस भी निकालना. So from R you have to remove those values of x for which either f of x is 0 or g of x is 0, because base of a logarithm cannot be 0. Base of a logarithm cannot be 1. So you should also remove the cases where g of x is either plus 1 or minus 1. Okay. Remaining things also you can do it in a similar way. So you have to be very careful about finding domains of the function. Okay, and whenever you have quantities, functions inside sine inverse, whatever is inside sine inverse, that should lie between -1 and 1. So if you have to find domain of sine inverse f of x should lie between -1 and 1. Similarly, cos inverse of f of x should lie between -1 and 1. Sine inverse root over f of x, root f of x should lie between 0 and 1. So f of x should be between 0 and 1. Of x should be lie between 0 and 1. Tan inverse के लिए कोई problem नहीं है. Whatever value you put inside tan inverse, it will be meaningful. Tan inverse का domain कितना है? R. So if you have tan inverse f of x, whatever is the value of f for which f is meaningful, you can happily put that same value as your domain. ठीक है? But f should be meaningful. अगर domain of f R नहीं दिया हुआ है, तो it will be simply domain of f. Tan inverse f of x का domain कितना होगा? f of x का जो domain है, वही tan inverse f of x का domain होगा. Let us see how to find domain of few functions. Now, I have sum of two functions. Sum of two functions will be meaningful only when both of them are meaningful. So, first condition is 4 minus x square should not be 0. This is your condition number 1. And means intersection. Quantity under the log should be greater than 0. Quantity under the log should be greater than 0. Now, how do we solve this? If you take x common, this is x into x square minus 1 is x minus 1 into x plus 1. Apply wavy curve method here. Cut the number line at 0, minus 1, plus 1. Positive, negative, positive, negative. ठीक है, हमें क्या होना है? Positive, greater than 0. So what will be domain of the function? -1 to 0, it is positive. I'll come to intervals later on. Union 1 to infinity, again it is positive. ठीक है, ये पॉजिटिव होना है, नॉन नेगेटिव होना है. 0 भी हो सकता है क्या? नहीं. It should be strictly greater than 0. Because it is strictly greater than 0, it has to be open interval here, open interval here, and open interval here. And 4 minus x square should not be 0. When will 4 minus x square be 0? When x is plus or minus 2. So 2 है क्या इसमें? है, 1 to infinity के बीच में 2 है, निकालना पड़ेगा. -2 है क्या इसमें? नहीं है, already it is removed. So -2 will lie between -infinity to -2. वो ऑलरेडी हमने कंसिडर नहीं किया, तो सिर्फ ये एलिमेंट जो 2 है इसको निकालने की जरूरत है. दिस विल बी डोमेन ऑफ योर फंक्शन. -1 to 0, union 1 to infinity, because x square minus x should be greater than 0, and 4 minus x square should not be 0. So x cannot be plus or minus 2. -2 was already not part of this, so you have to remove 2. That will be domain of your function. -1 to 0, 1 to 2, and 2 to infinity. ये 2 की जगह break कर दिया, 1 to 2 and 2 to infinity. How will you find domain of this function? Will you find domain of this function? What is this function? F of x is equal to 1 plus 3 by x whole power 1 by x minus 2. What to do here? ये क्वेश्चन स्पेशली इसीलिए पिक किया क्योंकि कई सारे लोग गड़बड़ कर देते हैं इसमें. What is this function? Is it an exponential function or is it a polynomial function? It is neither exponential nor polynomial. It is neither exponential nor polynomial. Exponential किसको बोलते हैं? Constant power x को exponential function बोलते हैं. लेकिन यहाँ पे बेस कांस्टेंट नहीं है. अगर पावर कांस्टेंट होता तो इसको पॉलिनोमियल या अलजेब्राइक फंक्शन बोलता, लेकिन ये अलजेब्राइक भी नहीं है because power is not constant. So what should it be? Now let us look at the answer. -infinity to -3 दिया हुआ है, 0 to 2 दिया हुआ है, 2 to infinity दिया हुआ है. Let us see if that can be the answer or not. X plus 3 divided by x whole power 1 by x minus 2. Now इसमें दो केसेस बन सकते हैं. एक when base is positive, one when base is positive. So when will base be positive? X plus 3 by x should be greater than 0. When will x plus 3 by x greater than 0? Wavy curve method, plot karo 0, minus 3, positive, negative, positive. This will be positive from minus infinity to minus 3, union 0 to infinity. ये numbers के लिए base will be positive. Base will be positive. Now, when base is positive, a power x is always meaningful. A power x is always meaningful as long as x is meaningful. That means power, if it is meaningful, this whole thing will be meaningful. Power meaningless कब होगा? सिर्फ 2 पे meaningless हो रहा है. When x is equal to 2, denominator is becoming 0. So इसमें से हमें d2 निकालना है, तो हमारा डोमेन आ जाएगा. So what will be the domain? Minus infinity to minus 3 union 0 to 2 union 2 to infinity. ये जो दिया हुआ है वहां पे दिया गया आंसर से मैच हो रहा है, लेकिन ये गलत है. ये गलत इसलिए क्यों है? बिकॉज एक्सपोनेंशियल फंक्शंस वी हैप्पीली मेक देम इजी बाय सेइंग a is greater than 0. एक्सपोनेंशियल फंक्शन डिफाइन करते वक्त क्या करेंगे? वी से exponential function is y is equal to a power x and in bracket we write a is greater than 0. So happily domain of this is R. Domain of this is R. लेकिन अगर कुछ ऐसे फंक्शन बनाया गया -2 power x, -2 power x. Now tell me what can I say about -2 power x domain? ये अगर 1/2 है x, then this is meaningless. x अगर 1/3 है तो मीनिंगफुल है. 1/4 है तो again I am getting an imaginary number, it is meaningless. 1/5 है तो मीनिंगफुल है. So for some numbers it is meaningful, for some numbers it is meaningless. Can you identify a pattern for which it is meaningful and meaningless? Absolutely not. 2/3 के लिए meaningless है, 3/4 के लिए मीनिंगलेस है, 2/3 के लिए मीनिंगफुल है. सो देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नो पैटर्न. इरैशनल नंबर होगा तो क्या होगा पता नहीं क्या होगा. तो वी कैन नॉट प्रिसाइजली से व्हाट इज डोमेन ऑफ दिस फंक्शन. कैन नॉट प्रिसाइजली से व्हाट इज डोमेन ऑफ द फंक्शन. ठीक है, अगर x इंटीजर है तो प्रॉपर्ली डिफाइन हो रहा है, बट इज इट ऑल पॉसिबल वैल्यूज ऑफ x फॉर विच इट इज मीनिंगफुल? नो, देयर इज स्टिल 1/3 फॉर विच इट इज मीनिंगफुल, 1/5 फॉर विच इट इज मीनिंगफुल. अब ये सारे जोड़ देंगे तो बस यही है क्या? नहीं. 2/3 के लिए भी मीनिंगफुल है, 4/5 के लिए भी मीनिंगफुल है, 4/3 के लिए भी मीनिंगफुल है. तो you will never ever be able to precisely define, mathematically define what is that values of set for which this is meaningful. That's exactly the reason we always keep excluding this as part of our discussion, because we cannot even talk about domain of the function. अब ये क्वेश्चन में ये पॉजिटिव है तो ये मीनिंगफुल है if x is not 2. But can I ruthlessly say if this is negative then this will automatically be meaningless? नहीं? ये नेगेटिव है फिर भी ये 3 है तो मीनिंगफुल होगा, या -3 है तो मीनिंगफुल होगा. ये नेगेटिव है, ये -5 है तो मीनिंगफुल होगा. तो दिस इज नॉट ऑल द वैल्यूज ऑफ x. There are still some other values of x pending for which this is meaningful. That's exactly the reason this is not the right answer. ठीक है, ये कई सारे किताबों में दिया जाता है कि ये डोमेन है, लेकिन ये सरासर गलत है. इसके लिए और भी कई सारे वैल्यूज होंगे for which x plus 3 by x can be negative and still this can be properly meaningful. Okay, so remember, domain of a set is set of all values of x and only those values of x. all भी है, you cannot leave out any single value and only you cannot add any extra value. ठीक है. now ये कायदे से क्वेश्चन पूछा गया. here he gave x square plus 1. x square plus 1 is ensuring that base is positive. x square plus 1 is ensuring that base is positive. So because base is positive, a power x, this will be meaningful if power is meaningful. A power x is always meaningful. Whatever value be the value, real value of x, it will be meaningful. So power should be a real value. If power will be a real value only when x is equal to 3 by 2, denominator is becoming 0, then it is becoming meaningless. So for all other values, power is real. So except for 3 by 2, for all other values, this number is properly defined. This function is properly defined. So what will be your domain? R minus 3 by 2. R minus 3 by 2 will be your domain. This is how you need to find, you can find domain of a function. Okay. Next, and ये domain of function में कई सारे questions पूछे जा सकते हैं. You can put in trigonometry, root over sin x minus cos x. When will it be meaningful? When sin x minus cos x is greater than or equal to 0. Now you will end up solving a trigonometric equation. ठीक है, इसमें logarithm भी place किया जा सकता है. Question will get converted into logarithm. You can put inverse trigonometric functions into this. Then question will get converted into an inverse trigonometric question. You can put a lot of algebra in it. ठीक है, so there is no end for domain questions or range questions. A multiple number of questions can be asked, which eventually turn out to be a trigonometric question or a exponential question or a logarithmic question or a polynomial or algebraic numerical. Okay, but on the whole, this is the pattern how you discuss domain of a function. Then you have something called equal or identical functions. This is where one again needs to be careful with. जैसे काफी सारे बच्चे x square minus 4 by x minus 2 is equal to x plus 2 लिख देते हैं. ये लिखने से क्या फर्क पड़ता है? ये दोनों लगता है कि सेम है, लेकिन दे आर नॉट सेम. यहां पे 2 रखेंगे तो 4 आ रहा है, लेकिन यहां पे 2 रखेंगे तो आउटपुट कुछ नहीं निकल रहा. डिनोमिनेटर इज बिकमिंग 0. So these two are not one and the same. Two functions are said to be identical if and only if their domains are same. Their domains are same, and also their range should be same. Or simply ये ignore करके you can say their definition should be same. If these two are same, automatically range will also be same. ठीक है, if first and third are true, automatically they will imply second one is true. So if domains are same and definitions are same, then ranges will also be same. Such functions are said to be equal or identical. Domains are same. यहां पे डोमेन क्या है? R minus 2 है. इसका डोमेन क्या है? R है. Domain of this is R, domain of this is R minus 2. Are they same? No. So they are not equal or identical functions. Are the definitions same? Yes. Because the domain is R minus 2, now I can happily cancel x minus 2 and x minus 2. हमेशा ध्यान रखो, कुछ नंबर कैंसिल करते वक्त इक्वेशन में you have to ensure that the number is not 0. You should be considering what happens if that number is 0. ये कई सारे मिस्टेक्स ट्रिग्नोमेट्रिक इक्वेशंस में भी करते हो, अलजेब्राइक इक्वेशंस में करते हो. जैसे sin square x is equal to sin x cos x हो गया, तो बच्चे फटाक से sin x कैंसिल कर देते हैं. sin x is equal to cos x, tan x is equal to 1, x is equal to n pi. ये लिख के आ जाते हैं. क्या ये सही है? बिल्कुल गलत है. क्यों? sin x को कैंसिल करते वक्त यहां पे लिखना है sin x can also be 0. sin x can also be 0. So इसके साथ साथ क्या आएगा? R x is equal to n pi will also be part of your solution. Similar problem, sin square x, sin x cos x by sin x काट देते हैं, 1 is equal to 1 आ रहा है, तो आंसर R लिख देते हैं. ये भी गलत है. क्यों? sin x 0 नहीं हो सकता. सो व्हाट विल बी योर आंसर? कैंसिल करने से पहले इंश्योर करना है कि sin x 0 ना हो. R minus x such that x is not n पे लिखना है उसमें. ठीक है. सो ये साइन एक्स कैंसिल करते हुए कोई भी नंबर यू हैव टू इंश्योर दैट इज 0 is allowed or that is 0 is not allowed. That is 0 should be part of the solution or that is 0 should not be part of the solution. This clarity only when you have this, then only you can cancel. ठीक है. So what are identical functions? Domains same होना चाहिए, ranges भी same होना चाहिए and definitions भी same होना चाहिए. Domain and definition अगर same हो गया तो automatically range भी same हो जाए. Now he is asking whether these two functions are आइडेंटिकल और नॉट. एक फंक्शन है x, दूसरा फंक्शन है रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर. यहाँ पे डोमेन होगा r, इसका भी डोमेन होगा r. सो डोमेन्स आर सेम बट डेफिनेशन वाइज व्हाट इज डेफिनेशन ऑफ रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर? रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर इज नॉट x, रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर इज मॉड x. रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर इज मॉड x. ये गलती कभी भी मत करना, रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर को कभी भी x मत लिखना, रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर को हमेशा मॉड x लिखना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. इन डिफरेंट इंटीग्रल चैप्टर ऑल्सो आई सॉ इंटीग्रल ऑफ रूट ओवर 1 प्लस कॉस एक्स, उसको क्या लिखे थे हम? मॉड 2 कॉस एक्स बाई 2 लिखे थे. ठीक है. रूट ओवर एक्स स्क्वायर इज ऑलवेज मॉड एक्स. यहाँ पे डेफिनेशन क्या हुआ? x. यहाँ पे डेफिनेशन क्या हुआ? मॉड x. क्या दोनों डेफिनेशन सेम है? नहीं. तो फंक्शंस आर नॉट आइडेंटिकल. रेंजेस भी देख सकते हैं, बिकॉज दिस इज मॉड x, इसका रेंज होगा 0 to infinity. बिकॉज दिस इज x, इसका रेंज होगा r. तो दोनों आइडेंटिकल फंक्शंस नहीं है बिल्कुल. आर दिस फंक्शंस आइडेंटिकल? कभी कभी बार बच्चे ऐसे कर देते हैं. क्या कर देते हैं? रूट ए बाई रूट बी को रूट ए बाई बी लिख देते हैं, या रूट ए बाई बी को रूट ए बाई रूट बी लिख देते हैं. क्या ये कर सकते हैं? देखेंगे whether these two are identical or not. इसका डोमेन क्या होगा? इसका डोमेन क्या होगा? पहले इसका डोमेन देखते हैं. The quantity under the root x minus 3 into x plus 3 with a minus sign by x minus 2 is less than or equal to 0. Quantity under the root क्या है? Minus of x minus 3 into x plus 3. That should be greater than or equal to 0. So without minus sign, this quantity should be less than or equal to 0. Less than or equal to 0. ठीक है. तो ये क्वांटिटी जो है लेस देन और इक्वल टू 0 होना चाहिए. कब लेस देन और इक्वल टू 0 होगा? Plot the numbers on the number line. -3, 2, 3, positive, negative, positive, negative. We want it to be less than or equal to 0. तो इसका डोमेन क्या आएगा? लेस देन कहाँ पे है? -∞ to -3. कभी भी इंटरवल्स डायरेक्टली मत लिखना, सोच समझ के लिखना. अब न्यूमरेटर क्या 0 हो सकता है? आराम से हो सकता है. ठीक है. तो 3 के पास और -3 के पास क्लोज्ड इंटरवल. क्या डिनोमिनेटर 0 हो सकता है? बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकता. सो 2 के पास जो है वो ओपन इंटरवल है. सो 2 विल बी ओपन इंटरवल and 3 and -3 will be closed interval. This is domain of your later part of the function. Let us see what is domain of the former part of the function. Sorry, domain of this was -∞ to -3 closed union open 2 to 3. That is domain of G. Let us see what is domain of F. 9 minus x square should be greater than or equal to 0 and x should be greater than 2. This is the condition. ठीक है. इसका और इसका इंटरसेक्शन ले लें. तो x square minus 3, that is x minus 3 into x plus 3 should be less than or equal to 0 and intersection x should belong to 2 to infinity. ठीक है. Now when will this be less than or equal to 0? Between the roots. Quadratic में between the roots it will be negative. So -3 to 3 closed interval where it is permitted union intersection 2 to infinity. Now what is the intersection of these two sets? एक सेट है -3 to 3, दूसरा है 2 से लेके इंफिनिटी तक, 2 to infinity is this yellow lines, -3 to 3 are these blue lines. What is the intersection? This part is the intersection. So what is the domain? 2 to 3 is domain of the function. डोमेन ऑफ एफ इज ओपन टू क्लियर। क्या दोनों डोमेन सेम है? बिल्कुल नहीं। यहाँ पे -∞ to -3 भी है जो कि यहाँ पे नहीं है। सो दे आर नॉट वन एंड द सेम। सो कभी भी ये गलती मत लिखना। कई सारे बच्चे लिख देते हैं log AB इज इक्वल टू log A प्लस log B। ठीक है, गलत नहीं है फॉर्मूला, फॉर्मूला तो अच्छा रटा हुआ है, लेकिन ये तभी वैलिड होगा जब ए बी आर बोथ पॉजिटिव। ए बी आर बोथ पॉजिटिव। इसमें क्या है, ये भी दोनों नेगेटिव है तो भी ये मीनिंगफुल होगा, लेकिन ये उस टाइम पे मीनिंगफुल नहीं। सिमिलरली रूट ए बी इज इक्वल टू रूट ए प्लस रूट बी लिख देते हैं। कैसे लिख सकते हैं? बिल्कुल नहीं। ये तभी लिख सकते हैं व्हेन ए बी आर बोथ पॉजिटिव। व्हेन ए बी आर बोथ पॉजिटिव। सिंपल से क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं बच्चे, रूट ओवर -1 क्या होता है? -1 इज आई स्क्वायर लिख देते हैं। रूट 1 को रूट -1 इंटू रूट -1 लिख देते हैं। A I am taking it -1, B I am taking it -1, so this will be root 1, this will be root -1, this will be root -1, I square हो गया -1, रूट 1 हो गया 1। अब 1 is equal to -1 पूछ के दिखा के they want Nobel Peace Prize for this. Will they give? No. What is the flaw they made? This identity is valid only for A, B positive. How can you use for negative numbers? You cannot, because they are not identical. They are not equal or identical. They will be identical only when the domains are also same. It is not just the definition. Domain should also be same. This is valid only for A, B positive, or to be precise, non-negative. कोडोमेन का तो डेफिनेशन आसान है। अगर एफ मैप्स x to y है तो दूसरा वाला सेट y जो है वो कोडोमेन है। इफ x इज मैपिंग फ्रॉम f is mapping from x to y, f is mapping from x to y, then later part of the set it is called what? Codomain of the function. Y is called codomain of the function. Now let us focus on range, the most important thing for which we started this class. F maps x to y be a function. F maps x to y be a function. Then the set of all the images of the elements of domain, set of all the images of the elements of the domain, जो भी elements of domain है उनका images जाके पकड़ो, वो सारे images का collection जो है वो range बोला है। तो range is collection of all those elements to which elements of domain are mapped to. Let's say there is a set X, elements of domain are mapped to 3 elements ABC, then that collection of 3 elements ABC is called a range. So finite elements agar hai, I'll show you with an example of a function. Let F maps 1, 2, 3, 4, this is your domain set. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is your codomain set, be a function. Given by the definition what? F of x is equal to x plus 4. Given by the definition f of x is equal to x plus 4. अब इसका डोमेन क्या होगा? 1, 2, 3, 4 है। रेंज क्या होगा? Go and substitute this 1. What will you get? 5. Go and substitute this 2. What will you get? 6. Substitute 3. You will get 7. Substitute 4. You will get 8. So your range will be collection of 5, 6, 7, 8. So just treat this as a mission in which you are inputting the value x and collecting the value of y as output. So all this collection of values of y is called your range. So I am putting 1 as the input in this function, I am getting 5 as the output. I am putting 2 as the input in the function, I am getting 6 as output. 3, 7, 4, 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8 is range of the function. And remember, range will always be subset of the codomain. Okay? Range will always be subset of the codomain. So basically, to find range, you are giving all the values of x as input and you are collecting the output of values of y. That will be your, in the function machine, you put all the input variables, x values of the domain as input here and collect the output. That will be your range. The set of all the images of the elements of domain is called range and is denoted by range of the function. Range is subset of codomain. Okay, so simple question, find range of function 4x plus 5. Range of function 4x plus 5. So you start giving all x as input. What is domain of the function? R. Domain of the function is R. 0 put kar raha hu to 5 aa raha hai. So as I keep on increasing the values of x up to infinity, this is also taking all values up to infinity. If I decrease the values up to minus infinity, this is also taking all values up to minus infinity. So range will be how much? R. Range will be how much? R. 4x square plus 5. Find range of the function. F of x is equal to 4x square plus 5. ठीक है, अब इसको एक प्रोसीजर बताता हूं which will make your life easy. Start with domain of the function. Start with domain of the function. Start from the innermost function. Whenever you have to find range, start from innermost function. Any function will be composition of lot of elementary functions. Elementary functions क्या क्या होते हैं? Trigonometric, exponential, polynomial, logarithmic. All these are your elementary functions, and your given function most of the times will be combination of these. Okay. So whenever you are given lot of functions, start from the elementary most function. What is elementary most function here? X. And this directly you could have answered it as R, but I am telling you a process. If you follow the process, even some little more difficult questions also will become very easy. So X belongs to R. R is what? Minus infinity to plus infinity. Okay. Now this is an inequality. This means X lies between minus infinity and plus infinity. Now what I want? 4x plus 5. You can multiply any inequality by a positive number. 4x को क्या ऐसे मल्टीप्लाई कर सकते हैं? आराम से ऐसे ही मल्टीप्लाई कर सकते हैं. इनफाइनटली लार्ज नंबर को 4 से मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे तो क्या होगा? इनफाइनटली लार्ज होगा. माइनस इनफाइनिटी क्यों? 4 से मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे तो वो भी माइनस इनफिनिटी होगा. You can add or subtract any number over an inequality. Inequality properties क्या है? You can happily add or subtract any number on an inequality. So I will add 5. माइनस इन्फिनिटी को 5 ऐड करने से क्या होगा? कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. इट विल स्टिल रिमेन माइनस इन्फिनिटी. प्लस इन्फिनिटी को 5 ऐड करने से क्या होगा? It will look like you are putting in Arabian Sea 5 buckets of water. What will happen? Nothing will happen. It will remain the same. Infinity. So 4x plus 5 will belong to minus infinity to plus infinity. अगर कोई नेगेटिव नंबर से मल्टीप्लाई कर रहे हो, इनइक्वालिटी विल रिवर्स. इनइक्वालिटी विल रिवर्स. ठीक है. These are the steps which you have to keep in mind while doing such questions. Let us follow the same thing and do this question. 4x square plus 5. 4x square plus 5. I have to find range of this function. So you can start with x values, or you can even start with x square values. Okay. X square will take all values from where to where? 0 to infinity. एक सही लिखा कि गलत? 0 will be closed. एक वैल्यू भी मिस नहीं करना है. Cannot even venture into missing a single value. ठीक है. X square belongs to 0 to infinity. Now I am multiplying this by 4. क्या होगा? You can happily multiply by 4. Inequality will be retained. 4 into 0 is 0. Infinity multiplied by 4 will also remain. To this you are adding 5. Happily you can add a number across an inequality. तो ऐड करने से क्या होगा? 0 plus 5 is 5. Infinity plus 5 will remain. So what is range of this function? 5 to infinity. 5 to infinity. So this is a simple process. ठीक है? But it becomes very handy to you, and you can use it for a lot of questions, and you can get the results very easily and systematically. Another example, let me see. Find the range of the function 4 sin square x plus 5. 4 sin square x plus 5. Sin square x range, you know, sin square x will take all values from 0 to 1. अगर sin x होता तो -1 to 1. Sin square x 0 to 1. This you are multiplying by 4. 4 sin square x will take values from positive number, you can happily multiply. Negative number, you have to reverse the inequality. 4 is a positive number, so you can happily multiply. 0 into 4 is 0. 1 into 4 is 4. To this you add 5. 4 sin square x plus 5 will belong to 0 को ऐड करना है 5, 4 को ऐड करना है 5. So what will be your answer? 5 to 9. इसी क्वेश्चन में अगर रेंज ऑफ f of x is equal to 5 minus 3 sin square x दिया होता, 5 minus 3 sin square x दिया होता, तब क्या करते? What would we have done? Sin square x will take values from 0 to 1. Square x will take values from 0 to 1. Now this you have to multiply by -3. Whenever you are multiplying an inequality by negative number, inequality will reverse. Inequality will reverse. Applying a decreasing function on an inequality, inequality will reverse. ठीक है? So here inequality will reverse. -3 into 0 will go here, it will become 0. -3 into 1 will come here, it will become -3. So -3 sin square x will become what? -3 to 0. Inequality has reversed. These two will interchange their positions. To this you are adding 5. 5 minus 3 sin square x. Add 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 plus 0 is, that will be range of your function. So this is a systematic approach which will give you result of any given function. Next question, 1 by 4 sin square x plus 5. ये क्वेश्चन में प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन में क्या अंतर है? देयर इज ओनली वन मोर एडिशनल फंक्शन. sin square x को 4 से मल्टीप्लाई किया, फिर 5 ऐड किया, फिर उसका रेसिप्रोकल फाइंड किया. रेसिप्रोकल फंक्शन इज ए डिक्रीजिंग फंक्शन. रेसिप्रोकल फंक्शन इज ए डिक्रीजिंग फंक्शन except at 0. 0 में कुछ प्रॉब्लम होगा. For all positive numbers it is decreasing function. For all negative numbers also 1 by x is a decreasing function. 1 by x का ग्राफ कैसे होगा? इसे होगा. This is how the graph will be. Okay. So for all negative numbers it is a decreasing function. For all positive numbers it is a decreasing function. But don't include 0 in the discussion. Don't include 0 in the inclusion. By whatever reason, if 0 is there, you have to separate it out and decreasing function में क्या है? Whenever you are applying a decreasing function, inequality will reverse. Just remember, whenever you are applying a decreasing function or removing a decreasing function, inequality will reverse. Inequality will reverse. Okay. So we already know 4 sin square x plus 5. Last question में ही किए थे. It will take all values from where to where? Sin square x का लीस्ट वैल्यू है 0, 5, तो sin square x का ग्रेटेस्ट वैल्यू है 1, तो 9. ये सारे पॉजिटिव नंबर्स है. तो हैप्पीली यू कैन अप्लाई रेसिप्रोकल फंक्शन ऑन दिस. Happily you can apply reciprocal function on this. Reciprocal function is a decreasing function for all positive numbers. It is a decreasing function for all negative numbers. Not when 0 is in between. नीचे जाके फिर ऊपर उठ के फिर नीचे. ठीक है? So don't ever include 0 because 0 is not included fortunately. What will be domain of this? It is a decreasing function. So 1 by 9 इधर आ जाएगा. 1 by 5 will come here. 1 by 9 will come this side. 1 by 5 will go that side. So this is range of the function. इसी क्वेश्चन में अगर ये दिया होता if this was given to you in the question, find the range of f of x is equal to 1 by 5 sin square x minus 4. 5 sin square x minus 4. Then what is that we do? 5 sin square x minus 4, what will the values it will take? The least value कितना होगा? sin square x 0 पे minus 4. इसका greatest value कितना होगा? sin square x पे 1. So this will take all values from minus 4 to 1. Sin square x will take values from 0 to 1, multiply by 5, then subtract 4. This will take all values from minus 4 to 1. अब इसको reciprocal करना है. Can I do the reciprocal directly? No, because 0 is in between. So what do we say? 5 sin square x, before applying reciprocal function, you have to write this step. Belongs to minus 4 to 0, removes 0, union 0 to 1. ठीक है, नेगेटिव नंबर्स को सेपरेट कर दो, पॉजिटिव नंबर्स को सेपरेट कर दो. Now you can do the reciprocal function. Reciprocal function is decreasing function. So inequalities will reverse. Inequalities will reverse. अब ये कौन सा जीरो है? जीरो से थोड़ा कम वाला नंबर नेगेटिव नंबर है जिसका रेसिप्रोकल होगा माइनस इन्फिनिटी. Is a number tending to 0 but from left hand side, slightly negative number closer to 0. So उसका reciprocal कितना होगा? माइनस इन्फिनिटी. And because it is decreasing, ये सामने आ गया. माइनस 4 का रेसिप्रोकल कितना होगा? माइनस 1 by 4. ये पी. Similarly for positive numbers also it is a decreasing function. Reciprocal of 1 is 1. सामने आ गया. Reciprocal of 0. This is a number not 0 but slightly greater than 0. So its reciprocal will be plus infinity. So what will be your answer? Minus infinity to minus 4, 1 by 4, union 1 to infinity. So whenever 0 is in this interval and if you have to apply increase reciprocal function, so break it 0, consider negative number separately, consider positive number separately, and then apply the reciprocal function. Reciprocal function is a decreasing function. So whenever you are applying it, you have to reverse the inequalities. So if you are able to handle this, most of the questions you will be able to do. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन सिंपल है, कुछ नया है ही नहीं इसमें, बस एक 4 sin square x ज्यादा दिख रहा है. 4 sin square x plus 4 sin cos square x will be 4. एक 4 cos square x यहाँ से उधर ही ले लो. 4 sin square x plus 4 cos square x will become 4 and you will be left with 1 cos square x. So this will be all in all 4 plus cos square x. 4 plus cos square x. Range. What did we discuss about range? Range is set of all values of y which give real value of x. ठीक है? So in the first case I was looking this as a input, giving input as all values of x and collecting the output. There is another way in which you can look at this term range. It is all those values of y which are mapped to a real x, which give you real value of x. So in this context, what we try to do is, we try to find x in terms of y. We try to find x in terms of y. So here what you do is, try to find x, write it as some function of y. If y is equal to f of x is given to you, try to write y in x in terms of y. Okay. Now range is all those values of x which you, all those values of y which give you real value of x. So range is simply domain of your inverse function. Range is simply domain of your inverse function. Write x in terms of y and find domain of this function. That will be range of the original function. So, एक क्वेश्चन में क्या करना है? You could have done it normally also with our previous logic. ठीक है, इनपुट से भी कर सकते थे, आराम से कर सकते हैं. अभी इसको करेंगे डायरेक्टली with a different method. Y is equal to x plus 1 by 3x minus 5. So what is the first challenge? We have to find x in terms of y. We have to find x in terms of y. How will you find x in terms of y? Segregate 3xy minus 5y is equal to x plus 1. Is equal to x plus 1. 5y इस तरफ फेंक दो, 1 plus 5y इक्वल टू x इस तरफ लेके आओ, x into 3y minus 1. x into 3y minus 1 is equal to 1 plus 5y. और x is equal to 1 plus 5y by 3y minus 1. Now I found out x in terms of y. I found out x in terms of y. So sometimes it is very simple. Sometimes it is not that simple. Okay, so don't assume that knowing this you will get everything. So range questions, they are always open-ended. There will be n number of varieties, lot of things you need to do. So this is also one of the way. First is input. Second is find x in terms of y. Now what is domain of this function? Range is what? Set of all those values of y which give you real values of x. So what all values of y are not giving any real values? Denominator when it is 0. So y, if it is 1 by 3, you are getting a meaningless value for x. So what is range? All the numbers other than 1 by 3. Range will be what? R minus 1 by 3 will be your range. तो याद भी रख सकते हो x का कोएफिशिएंट्स का रेशियो होगा. It is in the form ax plus b by cx plus d. All the numbers except for a by c when ad is not equal to bc. ठीक है, याद करने से अच्छा है डायरेक्टली कर ही लो. R minus 1 by 3 will be your range. ठीक है, so what is that we are doing? Finding x in terms of y, finding x in terms of y, and all those values of y which give you real values of x, that is except for 1 by 3 all other numbers are giving you real values of x. So your range will be R minus 1 by 3. Another question, f of x is equal to x by x square plus 1, x by x square plus 1. Then find range of the function. ठीक है, इसको भी दो तीन तरीके से कर सकते हैं, एक आधा तरीका बता देता हूं. If I had to do it by previous method, y is equal to x by x square plus 1. You can write it as y is equal to x by x square plus 1. ठीक है, now find x in terms of y. X square y plus y is equal to x, इस तरफ लेके आओ, minus x is equal to 0. Now what kind of a equation is this in terms of y? What kind of a equation is this in terms of y? In terms of x. It's a quadratic equation in terms of x. It's a quadratic equation in terms of x. I am solving for x. I am solving for x. मुझे x का value चाहिए. It's a quadratic equation in x. So quadratic equation in x, what will be the solution? Minus b, coefficient of x is 1 minus 1, plus or minus root over e square is 1, minus 4ac, 4y square by 2a, 2y. Okay, this is the solution. Now, when will this be meaningful? What is domain of this function? Quantity under the root should be greater than or equal to 0. Quantity under the root should be greater than or equal to 0. So 1 minus 4y square should be greater than or equal to 0. Or y square should be less than or equal to 1 by 4. That is possible when y belongs to minus 1 by 2 to 1 by 2. y belongs to minus 1 by 2 to 1 by 2 आ गया. अब 0 से कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो क्या? Denominator is 0. y if it is 0, this is no longer a quadratic. y if it is 0, then what is x value? 0. x0 is giving you y0. So 0 is happily part of our range. 0 is happily part of our range. So there is no problem with our 0. So what is the range? Minus 1 by 2 to 1 by 2. Minus 1 by 2 to 1 by 2. So denominator यहाँ पे देख के 0 दिख नहीं रहा, but 0 है तो ये quadratic नहीं होगा, and solution directly you are straight away getting a linear solution x is equal to 0. This is one way of doing it. There are a lot of other ways also in which you can do. I'll tell you a slightly more better method. Any real number can be seen as tan theta. Can be seen as tan theta. Okay, because tan theta range is R. You can see any given number, you can have one theta such that x is equal to tan theta. So if I see x as tan theta, then this will be tan theta plus 1 plus tan square. अब ये देख के कुछ फॉर्मूला याद आ रहा है मुझे. What is this? Half sin 2 theta. So whenever you see this expression x by x square plus 1 or x by 1 plus x square, I recall the formula 2 tan theta by 1 plus tan square theta. That means it is half of sin 2 theta. Now sin 2 theta, you know its range, minus 1 to 1. So half sin 2 theta, what will be the range? Minus half to half. This is much more simple. Range will be minus half to half. AMGM inequality से भी कर सकते थे, basic से भी कर सकते थे. All that is fine, but these are two prominent methods which you have to keep in mind. ठीक है? Whenever I am looking at this formula, for example, अब ये क्वेश्चन समझ में आ गया तो इसका रेंज बता सकते हो 3x minus x cube by 1 minus 3x square. अगर ये क्वेश्चन दिया गया, इसका रेंज पूछा जाए तो x you can see it as any real number tan theta. X you can see it as any real number tan theta. Then 3x minus x cube by 1 minus 3x square is what? Tan 3 theta. It is tan 3 theta. Tan 3 theta का रेंज कितना होगा? R. So this is also of range R. इसका रेंज क्या होगा? R होगा. Okay. Let's say a function is given to you, f of x is equal to 1 minus x square by 1 plus x square. इसका रेंज क्या होगा? X if you see it as tan theta, this is cos 2 theta. This is cos 2 theta. Cos 2 theta का रेंज कितना होगा? Minus 1 to 1. So range of this function is minus 1 to 1. अब इसी को थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड करना है तो कर सकते हैं आराम से. I can ask you, f of x is equal to ये y इक्वल टू से हो ही नहीं पाता था मुझे. y इक्वल टू करके सॉल्व करने से हो ही नहीं पाता था. अब x इज इक्वल टू tan थीटा देख रहा हूं, वैसे x इज इक्वल टू tan थीटा हियर. I'll break it into two parts, 1 by 2, 2x by 1 plus x square, 1 minus x square by 1 plus x square. X is equal to tan theta. If I see, what will I get? Half into sin 2 theta into cos 2 theta, which is in turn sin 4 theta by 4. 2 sin 2 theta cos 2 theta is sin 4 theta. तो एक 2 और ऐड कर दो, मल्टीप्लाई कर दो, डिवाइड कर दो, sin 4 theta by 4. sin theta 4 theta by 4 का रेंज कितना होगा? 1 to 1 by 4 to 1 by 4. sin 4 theta का रेंज है -1 to 1. sin 4 theta by 4 का रेंज होगा -1 by 4 to +1 by 4. This is how you can calculate range of any given function. ठीक है, जो इस पैटर्न में दिख रहा हो. This is what we did. ठीक है, we called it in terms of y and we assumed that the discriminant is less than or equal to 0. So we also had a better method of doing the question. So graphically, range of a function is all those values of y along which the graph is spanned. The graph is spanned. Graphically कुछ ग्राफ्स देखते हैं. तो ये ग्राफ का रेंज कितना होगा? ये यहाँ पे ग्राफ नहीं है, यहाँ पे ग्राफ नहीं है, यहाँ पे ग्राफ नहीं है, ये y इज इक्वल टू एक्स स्क्वायर का ग्राफ है। तो ग्राफ कहाँ से शुरू हुआ, y एक्सिस के अलॉन्ग, 0 से लेके इन्फिनिटी तक। सो रेंज क्या होगा इसका, क्लोज्ड 0 टू ओपन इन्फिनिटी विल बी रेंज ऑफ द फंक्शन। क्लोज 0 टू ओपन इन्फिनिटी विल बी रेंज ऑफ दिस फंक्शन। एक्स क्यूब का ग्राफ देखो, ये कहां से शुरू हो रहा है, माइनस इन्फिनिटी से शुरू हो रहा है, वैल्यूज अप टू प्लस इन्फिनिटी, ठीक है। सो रेंज ऑफ दिस विल बी माइनस इन्फिनिटी टू प्लस इन्फिनिटी, माइनस इन्फिनिटी टू प्लस इन्फिनिटी। कोई भी फंक्शन का अगर ग्राफ पता है तो यू विल कम टू नो अबाउट एवरीथिंग, यू विल कम टू नो अबाउट एवरीथिंग। अब ई पावर एक्स का ग्राफ कैसे होगा, दिस इज हाउ द ग्राफ विल बी। नाउ कैन यू सी द ग्राफ हियर, नो 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 नो, नेगेटिव नंबर इज पार्ट ऑफ योर रेंज। जीरो भी नहीं है, ई पावर एक्स कभी जीरो नहीं हो सकता, जीरो के तुरंत बाद से you can see this is asymptotic with your x-axis. Graph of e power x will be asymptotic with your x-axis. It is looking like as if it is going to touch it at infinity. It will never touch it, but it is as if it is touching at infinity. That is called an asymptotic nature. So this is asymptotic at infinity. So touch kabhi nahi ho raha hai. So this will be open 0 to infinity. Range will be open 0 to infinity. Open 0 to infinity. Log x का रेंज क्या होगा, log x, this is how the graph will be when the base is greater than 1. If the base is less than 1, this is how the graph will be. In either of the cases, look at the orange one, it is also stretching from, spanning from minus infinity to plus infinity. The green one is also spanning from minus infinity to plus infinity. So irrespective of the base, log x range is r, log x range is r, minus to plus infinity. This is how you can graphically say range of a function. Okay. So in general, there are no certain methods to find range. ठीक है, कभी कभी मोनोटोनिसिटी से निकल जाता है, कभी कभी मैक्सिमम मिनिमा से निकल जाता है. Then you can know about range of a function with graphical approach से निकल जाता है, इनपुट एंड आउटपुट से निकल जाता है. सम देयर इज नो सेट फॉर्मेट एंड ये नहीं है कि हर फंक्शन का तुम रेंज निकाल पाओगे. 99% ऑफ द केसेस रेंज नहीं निकाल पाओगे. ओनली फॉर लिमिटेड सम स्टैंडर्ड सम फंक्शंस you will be able to find the range. So you should not be very fanatic about finding the range. It will be entire process through your differential calculus. AOD का भी काफी यूज होगा, यहाँ पे मोनोटोनिसिटी का भी काफी यूज होगा, मैक्सिमम मिनिमा का भी काफी यूज होगा. So at every stage of finding a range, you need to know domain, monotonicity, if possible graph. If you know nothing like it, you will get everything about a function. ठीक है. So some functions to find the range, maybe you can use AM, GM, HM inequality also. Like in one of the questions I was saying, AM, GM inequality से range निकल सकता था. For example, f of x is equal to x square plus 1 by x square है. The numbers are both positive. Numbers are both positive. So this will always be greater than or equal to, what will say, m of x square and 1 by x square plus 1 by x square by 2. So 2 ये यहाँ पे लेके जाएंगे तो इसका gm कितना होगा, x square into 1 by x square का root. So x square plus 1 by x square is always greater than or equal to 2. So range of x square plus 1 by x square will be how much? 2 to infinity. Likewise, you can use a lot of questions. You can have a little more complex question also, like find the range of f of x is equal to x square e power x plus maybe something like this, where product of these functions is coming out to be 1. So it can be any number of combinations. So you can use AM, GM inequality on this and do the function. Okay. functions of the form a cos kx plus b sin kx, then there can be some results of trigonometry which will help you to find the range. So whenever you see a function of the form a cos kx plus b sin a cos kx plus b sin kx plus c, or a sin theta plus b sin theta plus c, then you can automatically say range will be c minus root over a square plus b square, that will be the least value of the function, and c plus root over a square plus b square will be greatest value of the function. Okay, so range will be set of all the values because it is a continuous graph. It will be all the values from c minus root over a square plus b square to c plus root over a square plus b square. So this is how you can find range of any format of any trigonometric expression of the form a cos theta plus b sin theta plus c. Now for some functions range, you may have to start from the innermost function and come outwards. Okay, like for this example, I can write it as ln of x minus 1 whole square plus 2. Okay, x square minus 2x plus 3 can be written as x minus 1 whole square plus 2. So x minus 1 whole square is always greater than or equal to 0. So it will take all values from 0 to infinity. इसको मैं 2 ऐड कर रहा हूँ तो it will take all values from 2 to infinity. इस पे log अप्लाई कर रहा हूँ. Log is a increasing function. I have shown you graph of logarithmic function. Logarithmic is an increasing function. So happily you can apply log on this inequality without any problem. So this will be log 2 to log infinity is, अगर वही log का base less than 1 होता, had this question been log to the base half x square minus 2x plus 3, then what should I have done? X square minus 2x plus 3 will belong to 2 to infinity. On this I am applying log to the base half. Then what will happen? Inequality will reverse. Inequality will reverse. It will be a decreasing function. So log 2 to the base half minus 1 will go this side. Log infinity to the base half will be minus infinity. Okay? How will be base log infinity to the base less than 1 will be minus infinity, and log 2 to the base half will be minus 1. These two positions will interchange. Okay? So you have to be careful with logarithm also. Monotonicity of logarithm is very important. When base of logarithm is greater than 1, it will be a strictly increasing function. When base of logarithm is less than 1, it will be a decreasing function, strictly decreasing function. Inequality has to be reversed properly. Then you can have such type of questions. F of x is equal to, basically most of them are part of the quadratic. So quadratic is something which you need to understand thoroughly. Once you understand quadratic thoroughly, you will be able to do all these questions easily. Okay? So these are convertible to quadratics. Quadratic, I will tell you how to find the range. If it is an upward parabola, a greater than 0, this is how the graph will be. Draw the graph always. To draw the graph, you have to focus on the vertex. And then just decide whether it is upward parabola or a downward parabola. Your graph is ready. So quadratic graph के लिए ज़्यादा दिमाग फोड़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Focus on the vertex first. Vertex of any quadratic will be minus b by 2a, comma minus d by 4a. Vertex, what will it be? Whether it is upward parabola or lower parabola or discriminant positive or discriminant negative, whatever be the case, vertex will always be minus 4b by 4 2a, comma minus d by 4a. अगर ये याद नहीं रहता तो एक क्वाड्रेटिक अगर दिया हुआ है, इसका वर्टेक्स निकालना है, आराम से ऐसे करो, इसको डिफरेंशिएट करके इक्वल टू 0 कर दो. क्वाड्रेटिक दिया हुआ है, you have to find the vertex. Differentiate it and equate to 0 because tangent slope at vertex is 0. So 6x plus 4 is 0. x is equal to -2/3. अब ये जाके सब्स्टिट्यूट कर दो, वहां पे y कोऑर्डिनेट आ जाएगा, x के प्लेस में सब्स्टिट्यूट कर दो, यू विल गेट द y कोऑर्डिनेट. दैट इज एन अल्टरनेट वे ऑफ फाइंडिंग द वर्टेक्स. वर्टेक्स पता होने के बाद, if a is positive, quotient of x square is positive, it will be upward parabola. Quotient of a is negative, it will be a downward parabola. Simple. Okay. Now, having said that, range of quadratic will be minus d by 4a to infinity if it is a upward parabola, minus infinity to minus d by 4a if it is a downward parabola. यहाँ तक याद रख लो, सारा कुछ निकल जाए. अब लेकिन यहाँ पे quadratic नहीं दिया हुआ है, some other function is given. Can I convert this into a quadratic? X square is equal to t डाल दो. But when you are putting x square is equal to t, remember t cannot take all real values, it can only be taking values from 0 to infinity. T belongs to where 0 to infinity. T values can only be from strictly greater than or equal to 0 to infinity. ये पहले लिख लो, ये मेथड हर फंक्शन के लिए काम आएगा which can be converted to quadratic. Now draw the graph of this quadratic. What is this quadratic? Y is equal to t square plus t plus 4. T square plus t plus 4. Now what will be vertex of this parabola? Differentiate and equate it to 0. 2t plus 1 is 0 or t is equal to minus half is the vertex. So vertex कहाँ पे आएगा? Minus half. Minus half पे y की coordinate कितना होगा? Y dash is equal to 0 implies t is equal to minus half. Vertex का x coordinate आ गया, t is equal to minus half. Now substitute t is equal to minus half. How much are you getting? Y as this is 1 by 4, minus 1 by 2 is minus 1 by 4, 4 minus 1 by 4 is 15 by 4. 4 minus 1 by 4 is 15 by 4. So minus half comma 15 by 4 is the vertex. Is it a upward parabola or a downward parabola? Is it upward parabola? So draw an upward parabola. Now, should you focus on the entire upward parabola to look at the range? No, because t values we are considering only from 0 to infinity. So which part of the graph is important to us? Only this part of the graph is important to us. This is what we need to focus on. What is this function value? This is the value when t is equal to 0. How much is it? 4. So what will be our range? This red part. 4 to infinity will be range of the function. 4 to infinity will be range of the function. ये डायरेक्टली भी बता सकते थे, ये सब करने की नाटक जरूरत नहीं था. लीस्ट वैल्यू कितना होगा? एक्स स्क्वायर 0 पे होगा. एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस एक्स पावर 4 कैनॉट बी नेगेटिव. At worst case it can be 0 when x is equal to 0, and from x is equal to 0 if you are increasing the values, x square plus x power 4 increases, so range will be from 4 to infinity. Directly भी बता सकता था, but there is a purpose why I told this method. This method will make you solve n number of questions. Like let's say the question is log x whole square plus log x plus 5, sin square x plus sin x plus 3, e power 2x, 3 e power x plus 5. In all of these questions, happily you can use this method. यहाँ पे log x t कर दोगे. Log x range is r, so t can take all values from minus infinity to plus infinity. So focus on the entire quadratic, you will get the range. यहाँ पे sin x is equal to t. T can only take values between minus 1 and 1. Draw the quadratic graph and focus only from minus 1 to 1. E power x can take all values from open 0 to infinity. So focus on open interval 0 to infinity on the graph t square plus 3t plus 5. That is how you will be able to do the questions. ठीक है, algebraically कर सकते हैं. This is a better method. So for a quadratic, remember range will always be based on the vertex. Minus d by 4a is the y coordinate of the vertex. So if a is positive, minus d by 4a to infinity. लेकिन अगर कोई इंटरवल में लेना है रेंज, let's say I am not looking at the entire quadratic, I am looking at partially part of the quadratic, then just see whether this vertex is inside the quadratic or outside the quadratic. If it is inside the quadratic, Compare vertex value and these values to get least of them and greatest of them, and range will be from the least value to greatest value. अगर vertex बीच में नहीं है, just focus only on the end points, function values at the end points, f of d and f of g. One of them will be minimum value, the other one will be your maximum value. It will take all values from f of d to f of e or f of e to f of d, whichever is minimum. ठीक है? So whenever you have to find a quadratic range over a restricted interval, just look at the values, whether vertex is between those numbers or outside of those numbers. If it is between the known numbers, take minimum of the three, that will be minimum value of the function. Take maximum of the three, that will be maximum value of the function. If vertex is outside, don't even bother about vertex. Look at the end values, f of d and f of e. Whichever is maximum will be the maximum value, whichever is minimum, the minimum value. Then you will have a lot of other things. They come out as a combination of the previous ones. A cos alpha x plus beta, b sin alpha x plus beta plus c. You know ranges from c plus c minus root over alpha square to plus beta square to c plus root over alpha square plus beta square. अब इसमें देखना है कि जीरो बीच में है या नहीं है. जीरो बीच में नहीं है तो ऑटोमेटिकली रेसिप्रोकल कर सकते हो डिक्रीजिंग फंक्शन के साथ. अगर जीरो बीच में है तो जीरो के पास स्प्लिट करना है नेगेटिव नंबर्स एंड पॉजिटिव नंबर्स. That is how you get these results. ठीक है? If zero is not part of the interval, then you get one kind of behavior. If zero is part of the interval, you will get another kind of behavior. ठीक है? So this is how we deal with range functions. Last model in range is quadratic by quadratic. Whenever you get quadratic by quadratic, some similar question we did. You call it y is equal to quadratic by quadratics, cross multiply, you will get a quadratic in x. Try to solve the quadratic in x. The discriminant of that quadratic should be greater than or equal to 0. So we want all those values of y for which the discriminant of the quadratic is greater than or equal to 0. For example, x square plus x plus 1, y x square minus x plus 1. There are a lot of ways of solving this question, but one way is write a quadratic in terms of x. Try to solve for x in terms of y. X square into y minus 1 minus x into y plus 1 plus y minus 1 is equal to 0. This is what you get on cross multiplying and throwing everything on the other side. Now range is all those values of y for which you get real values of x. Now this is the quadratic equation in x. To get real values of x, discriminant should be greater than or equal to 0. Applies. Discriminant is what? B square minus 4ac greater than or equal to 0. Solve this quadratic inequality in terms of y, you will get range of the function. Okay, and some simple methods will be there. इसी में अगर गलती से you are getting same such type of functions, जैसे ये है x square plus x plus 1 है, by x square minus x plus 1 है, and discriminant is negative. Discriminant is negative. तो ये सब सॉल्व करने की जरूरत नहीं है. What he is saying is least value and greatest value of this will be f of root c by a plus or minus root c by a. c कितना है, ये कितना है, यहाँ पे 1 और 1. ठीक है, तो f of 1 will be your least value, f of minus 1 will be your greatest value, or one of them will be your least value and one of them will be your greatest value. In our particular case, c is 1, a is also 1. So f of 1 you have to find, f of minus 1 you have to find. f of 1 कितना आएगा, 3 divided by 1 which is 3. f of minus 1 कितना आएगा, 1 divided by 3, 1 by 3. So what will be your range, 1 by 3 to 3. डायरेक्टली लिख सकते हो, ये सब करने की जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है, करना है तो ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं, बट वेन एवर यू सी ऑफ दिस फॉर्मेट डायरेक्टली यू कैन राइट c by a का रूट प्लस और माइनस वो दोनों फंक्शन वैल्यूज निकालो when x is equal to root c by a or minus root c by a. One of them will be your maximum value, one of them will be your minimum value. This is applicable only for this particular format. In general, if you have to do, this is what you have to do. Another shortcut, whenever you see functions of the form f of x is equal to x plus a into x plus b into by x plus c, कर सकते हो directly equal to y करके, you can cross multiply and do it. If you want to save some time, maximum and minimum values क्या निकल के आएंगे? Root over a minus c plus root over b minus c whole square, root over a minus c minus root over b minus c whole square. This will be the maximum and minimum values. One of them will be maximum, the other one will be minimum value. Of course, this will be the minimum value and this is the maximum value. ठीक है, तो बस इन दोनों से इंटरवल बना दो, दैट विल बी योर रेंज. सब कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. तो a माइनस सी अंडर रूट प्लस b माइनस सी अंडर रूट, ये जो वैल्यू आ रहा है उसका स्क्वायर, दैट विल बी योर मैक्सिमम वैल्यू. a माइनस सी अंडर रूट माइनस b माइनस सी अंडर रूट, उसका स्क्वायर, दैट विल बी योर लीस्ट वैल्यू. रेंज विल बी फ्रॉम दिस नंबर टू दिस. ठीक है, so these are some shortcuts which you can use to find the range. Otherwise, in general, जो methods मैंने बता दिया था, along with that, some monotonicity questions, if you practice really well, you will be able to do most of the range questions. ठीक है, that's all for today. All the very best.